Hi, well, again, thank you for that. I was just saying, I love the idea of the accessibility muscle because it introduces the idea that you could be accessibility buff, which I love the idea of doing.
Get swollen a new way.
I'll just go over to the Q&A. So I see you've answered one question already, but I'll start with the ones that you haven't gotten a chance to look at. So the first one from an anonymous attendee, they write, I've tried to use a screen reader to understand how it works, and I get vertigo when it talks really quickly, and I can't stop it. I've also tried slowing it down, and I still find it tricky. Do you have any tips to understand how they work?
Yeah, this one's interesting. I think it's important to keep in mind if you're trying out a screen reader, but you aren't a user, that your perception of how it behaves is always going to be filtered through a certain lens, just because you're using it in a different context than folks who use it on the daily. And so I've had situations where folks have heard it for the first time. They're like, oh God, this is awful. But there's something beautiful about the access that you can get from a screen reader. The other thing is just being mindful that the way you process audio is really different. And so screen readers will say the word link the same way every time versus I'm talking, I'm slowing down, I'm changing my pitch. Human language is harder to process just because there's multiple layerings of intonation and meaning with how we talk. And so screen readers are extremely predictable, and that's why folks can listen to it at a higher level. It's also a bit of a muscle in that you like train yourself up to be comfortable with higher speeds. But to get to the root of your question, I'd actually recommend observing folks using the screen reader themselves. So a lot of folks have done tutorials or they're influencers, and they show people how they use their assistive technology. And so going to YouTube and actually just watching, one of my favorite things to show folks is how to do Braille input on a mobile device. And just there's like a lot of folks who love demonstrating how it's done. And so just kind of exposing yourself to folks actually using it themselves, I find is the best way to better understand how it works, rather than trying to use it and learn it yourself, just because it's always going to be a bit of a bias. You can always try the tutorials. If you try it on your mobile phone, mobile screen readers behave really different than desktop. But key thing is, before you turn on a screen reader, always know how to turn it off. The number of times I've had friends turn it on and then come to my house because they didn't know how to turn it off, it's actually like quite a high number. So hopefully that answers that one.
Thank you. So the next one, and you'll be perfectly placed to answer this question, is what are ways to find the right audience to test with?
Yeah, this one's funny because I represent Fable, which our whole platform is about making this easier because it is challenging to get folks. So if you're interested in Fable, please look us up because our whole premise is designed around easing access to folks who use assistive technology. But outside that, depending on where you are, since we're all dialing in from different areas, you can always check with kind of local organizations to see what opportunities they have for their community, basically doing accessibility testing or kind of participating in research. There's quite a few organizations, depending on where you are, that will let folks kind of access their community. So it depends on what your resources are and just access to folks in that sense. But typically you're going to want to recruit through organizations or through kind of set channels instead of trying to do open call snowball research, because it can be challenging to decide how you screen if you don't know what assistive technology folks use. For us, we don't identify anyone by disability also, because it's medical information and there's implications there. And so just being mindful of how you're recruiting. If you're totally new, I really recommend going through an organization or a group that's got a set up process for getting you folks to chat with.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to go to a question now, which you've already answered. But if you just want to kind of give some more thoughts around that, or just read out even what you wrote. So the question was, I haven't tried testing with assistive technologies before. What type of high fidelity prototypes allow for screen magnification? Does Figma allow this?
Yeah, so this is a fun question because there's like two pieces to it. And I have the written one, but for when I'm talking about magnification, it's more powerful than just like built-in browser magnification. We're talking no matter if you're on Windows or Mac OS, there's built-in magnification for those operating systems that allow you to magnify again 400, 800 percent so that you're able to view text differently. Other programs like Zoom Text have even fancier features where they'll smooth text to keep it from pixelating. So magnification, when I talk about it, it's actually the programs that allow folks to use it. For prototyping software, everything has magnification, or like if you're on mobile, you can do pinch to zoom. Sometimes that's a bad thing. I've had users give me really positive feedback that wasn't deserved, in the sense of folks were like, we're never going to allow pinch to zoom. It's outside of our purview. We aren't going to make that change. And then I had a participant going like, wow, you can pinch to zoom in this app. That's fantastic. But really that's the prototyping software's influence. And so typically at the start, I'll set ground rules of do not pinch to zoom because it's not going to be available. And folks have to do other things to basically create a magnification window on their screen to allow them to view the content magnified. With mobile, though, you can also always physically magnify by just holding the phone a bit closer. So you can tell if your design's not doing too hot if folks get it closer and closer to their face. It's another sign that there's a pain point happening there.
Thank you. So next question. So this person asks, when making a screener, what do you think is the best way to ask people about their disabilities? I've tried asking about what AT someone uses, but I'm wondering if you know the best practices around recruiting and asking about disability.
Yeah, the most important things is giving folks the option to not answer, even though that makes it really hard to recruit. You don't want to force someone to answer that question. The other item, I usually stray away from impairment language just myself. So I'll say like blind and low vision instead of vision impairment, deaf, hard of hearing instead of hearing impairment. So looking up kind of what the community wants their disability to be called is an important kind of process for building a complete screener. And the other thing, which I believe the research was out of Chase Bank, don't quote me on this, but I do want to say the credit comes from someone else. But they did research in terms of how to build like a really well-informed screener. And one of their advices was don't have an other, have it be like a write-in option, but calling it other automatically others the person. And unfortunately, a lot of like out of the box survey builders you can't really change the phrasing, but it's something to just be mindful of, especially when you're working with disability communities. Do you
Right.
please? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, actually, we've run out of time. That's the end of the Q&A. So thank you very much for that insight, and for that great talk. And I want to thank everyone for coming again to Magnify 2023. So we still do have another event after this. So the Q&A with Sunita Gale, which was going to be our conference opener, has been rescheduled to today. So that's going to be today on the hour. So that's 5 p.m. GMT for those who are GMT time. So make sure that you tune in for that. And before we finish for today, or for this section of today, I should say, since we still have another event after this, Claudia's going to come in with just some thank yous and kind of thoughts around how to support Magnify.
Hi, everyone. If you've already seen this, I won't be offended if you leave. We did do it earlier, but just because we have people coming for different sections, we just wanted to highlight it once more. So number one, thank you so much for coming to Magnify this year. We really appreciate everyone's support. It was great to hear how many people enjoyed the workshops and the sessions and all the feedback we had throughout. So thank you so much for that. I also want to thank the team who worked behind the scenes to make this happen. So we are a community organized conference. We all did it through volunteer hours, and none of us were paid for it. So we really try our best to put in what we can for the conference. And I think part of why our conference is quite successful is because we're trying to put on a conference that we would really like to go to. So we hope that we've delivered that this year. So yeah, a big shout out to all of our team who helped. We couldn't have done it without them this year. Another shout out to our sponsors. So I've described what they do earlier today, but I just want to recognize again that our sponsors really help us get us to this day. We try to caption all of our talks through humans. So we don't do automatic captioning, no AI, it's all specialists who know how to make accessible captions as well. It's not just what they're saying, but also supplementing what's on the screen where possible as well. And that costs money. So our sponsors help with that. They also help us pay our speakers and workshop facilitators an honorarium. And we try to do this to make it more equitable for people to be involved. So there's lots of reasons why the sponsors are crucial to making Magnify happen. And we would love some help from you to get the word out there. So there's 3 things that you could do that would help ensure that we create more events in the future. So the first is we have a conference evaluation form. This is different to the form that I've been linking you to all throughout the conference. So the ones I was linking before were specific for sessions, whereas this is for the conference overall. So by filling in this evaluation form, we will understand how we can improve, what we can do better, and just generally how did the conference go for everyone. We never know until we see these forms, so that would be really helpful for us. The quotes that you give would also be amazing. Of course, it's anonymous, but if we could then use them for our marketing or to get more sponsors, it's really helpful to get like these quotes and sound bites. So all of your feedback is really helpful there. And then last time was in 2021 when Twitter was a lot more active. Now it's not the same as it used to be. So I think we've had to change and pivot more this year. We're on LinkedIn now and have a growing community there. But if you could post about what you learned from Magnify, any key things that you learned or the way it's impacted your practice, this will really help us with just finding more potential attendees, which is always amazing. And it will also help for sponsorship. It shows other companies what we're doing, and that exposure would be really helpful. And the third thing is to send our website to a potential sponsor. So if we want to run, well, we do want to run events again, but to do that, we do need financial support. And so we really would love any help in doing that. So thank you all for joining, for giving us your time. We really appreciated everyone coming and seeing you in all the sessions. I agree with Holly. I miss the Bluebird for Twitter. So yes, agreed. Thank you everyone again. We'll be back in 20 minutes for the Q&A with Sunita. So stick around, but as Marissa said, it's another Zoom link. But yeah, thank you. And we'll post this again and email everyone the links to make sure they have them as well. But thank you. Okay, I'm ending the chat now.